What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ. This is Out of Bounds, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about single stat player props for tonight's NBA slate, specifically over on PrizePicks. But if you don't play on PrizePicks and you're on one of the various sports betting websites, well, this video is sure to give you a lot of value and hopefully useful information. So if this is your first time here, welcome to Out of Bounds. Here on this channel, we talk all things single player daily fantasy sports. We also talk player props. We get into NBA. I've touched on NHL, college basketball, you name it. I try to mix it up and keep things interesting. So if you're into that sort of thing, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are over 820 subscribers. We're on our way to 900. I'd like to hit 900 by the end of this month. So with your support, I think we could do it. There's still about 46% of you who tune into the channel who haven't subscribed yet. So just double check, make sure that you are. Now, without further ado, we're going to talk some of the recent NBA player news, and then we'll start getting into the various player props, points, assists, rebounds, and three-pointers made on today's NBA slate. So at the top of the board here, we could see that Terry Rozier is now doubtful for the Charlotte Hornets on Tuesday. So that could be definitely an impactful injury, one to keep an eye on. Doesn't sound like he's going to be playing tonight. It also looks like the Hornets' PJ Washington is dealing with an ankle injury. He's been downgraded as well, so look for him to potentially sit out tonight. So that's two big players for the Charlotte Hornets roster who may not be playing tonight. Another one that is a big name and noteworthy is Danilo Gallinari. His ankle is going to keep him out most likely for the Atlanta Hawks on Tuesday. It looks like Miles Turner is going to be out again with an ankle injury for the Indiana Pacers as well. So these are some big names. These are some pretty impactful injuries to keep an eye out on. LaMarcus Aldridge, another big name. He's dealing with some sort of illness. He's going to be sidelined Tuesday for Brooklyn, so he will not be playing. It looks like Kyrie Irving, for personal reasons, will not play for the Brooklyn Nets in Tuesday's makeup game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So that's another impactful guy who's going to be out. Looks like Kyle Lowry is going to be rested for Tuesday against the Atlanta Hawks. So no Kyle Lowry for that game. Some sad news last night. Jamal Murray, the Denver Nuggets point guard, has torn his ACL and will miss the remainder of the season. So that is very unfortunate for Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets. So prayers up to him. Never want to see anybody, especially someone of the caliber and talent of Jamal Murray, go down with a gruesome injury like that. So that's unfortunate. Trae Young, he's going to be questionable with a calf injury for the Hawks. So again, a lot of big names, big news coming out with different injuries. So you got to keep an eye on that. But otherwise, I think that is going to be it. Pokusevski is going to be out for Tuesday. That's another big one for Oklahoma City. Yeah, I mean, so just a lot of big news, guys. So we had to definitely talk about that. But with that out of the way, we can start talking about some of these single stat player props over on PrizePicks. Now, if you're unfamiliar with PrizePicks, they do fantasy points where you can choose the over or under. They also have introduced single stat player props. So you can choose from points, assists, rebounds, or three-pointers made and choose the over or under on a given prop. So if you're new to PrizePicks, you're interested in playing, down at the bottom of this video, you can see there's a little banner down there. If you use code OOBDFS, you get an instant deposit match. So if you put in $50, they're going to match it and give you $50 more to play with. If you put in $100, they'll match you $100. So anything up to $100, if you're a first-time depositor on PrizePicks, use that promo code, and I'll leave a link down in the description of the video. Also, down in the description of the video will be a link for the Discord, free Discord for you to go and join, talk to other like-minded individuals who are into playing PrizePicks and single stat player props on the various sports books out there. That's completely free, but I also offer a way for you to join a premium chat experience. And along with that chat, you get more access to me. I look up stats for you guys. On top of that, I put together some pretty nifty spreadsheets covering all single stat player props. We've got fantasy point projection comparisons across the industry. I try to do as much as I can for one guy, and that's all included in the Patreon membership. So a link will be available for you to check that out down in the description of today's video. I appreciate all your support for just $20 a month. It goes a long way for a content creator like me who does this full time. So appreciate you guys. All right. with all that business out of the way, let's talk about the first guy who stood out to me, and that is Paul George, the swing man for the Los Angeles Clippers. He's projected for 26.5 points. They're taking on the Indiana Pacers tonight. That game tips off at 7:50 p.m. Let's do the first order of business, which is looking at the game totals and the spread here. It looks like on this one, the over-under is set at 232 points. So that is a healthy game total. I'm liking the way that's looking. And Indiana is a 3.5 point underdog at home. So not a ridiculous spread. It looks like the game's going to stay close and competitive. It gets a thumbs up from me. That's a green light go. I think this is one where we can feel comfortable targeting players in this game and not worrying about a blowout. There's been a lot of blowouts here recently in the NBA. So thankfully for this one, it does not look like a blowout whatsoever. So Paul George at 26.5. They've got him projected at 27 points over on NumberFire. Now, NumberFire, completely free website. They offer projections for both fantasy points and single stat points. So with that in mind, we're going to look at Paul George over on NBA.com and just see how he's been scoring the basketball in recent games. So we look at his season average first. Now, his player card shows that he has been scoring 23 points per game, which is much lower than 26.5, but I think I'm looking to target Paul George over in this matchup. So let's click his stats. And it says content unavailable. Now, it's been doing this lately for whatever reason. Let's see if I open it in a new tab. Nope, still not coming up. All right. Well, what we can do then is just look at his last 5 games, and that's convenient enough. Down here, you can see that from April 1st through April 11th, he's played in 5 games. And in those games, we get an idea of how he's been scoring the ball. Now, 17, 16, 36, 33, and 32. So in his last 5 games, he's went under twice and over by quite a bit in his last 3. So I would pay more attention to his last 3 games because those are going to be games where he's been playing without Kawhi Leonard in a couple of those. So scoring the basketball much better in his last 3. So things are looking good here for trying to target an over on Paul George's real life actual points. Now, the next site here is rotowire.com. On RotoWire, they provide all of the different player props all on one screen, and they show you all the different sports books out there, at least the top 4 most popular in my opinion. So what we can do here is type in Paul George's first or last name, and you can see that on this 26.5 point prop, DraftKings Sportsbook has him going over by quite a bit. He's favored to go over. Now they got him at 27.5 on FanDuel Sportsbook. So at 27.5, people are taking the under. So you could see an over on 26.5 and under on 27.5. You split the difference, and that's 27 points. Now 27 would be enough to get us over the hump here at 26.5. So we'll look at a couple of these other sites here and see what they have him at. Looks like BetMGM has him at 27.5, and at 27.5, people are taking the under there. And then finally, PointsBet, they've got him at 26.5, and you can see once again, people are taking the over on Paul George at 26.5 points. So that's the way I'm leaning too. At 26.5, I'm hitting the over on Paul George. I think he gets there based on his recent game logs, based on how the action in Vegas is looking, and based on the high totals and the close spread in this game. So loving Paul George and the over on his points. Now, with him in the books, we can talk about his teammate. He was another guy that stood out to me. Marcus Morris may not be projected quite high enough at 14.5 points. So let's head back over to NumberFire real quick. We'll do a quick search for Marcus Morris. You could type in his first or last name by doing Control F or Command F if you're on an Apple computer. So Marcus Morris, he's projected at 15.6 points. So at 15.6 points, that's 1 whole point, even more, over 14.5. So far, so good if we're looking to take an over on Marcus Morris. Now, with that in mind, we can get back on NBA.com here. We could type in Marcus Morris's name. Let's see if it'll load up here for him. All right, so we got his player card up. For the season, he's scoring 12.9 points per game. We got to remember Kawhi Leonard is expected to miss tonight's game, so that average of 12.9 should go up in this situation. Of course, Lou Williams no longer in the picture for the Los Angeles Clippers. That was another big scorer that they lost in that trade with Atlanta for Rajon Rondo. So they traded out scorer in Lou Williams for a traditional pass first point guard in Rajon Rondo. So more points here on the board for Marcus Morris. Now let's see if we can get into his stats or if it's going to give us an error. So again, it's giving us another error, so we can go back here, just scroll on down if it does that to you. Don't know why NBA.com's been acting up, but for some reason, it's been wigging out. But we've got his last 5 games handily available here. So 22 back on April 4th. Then he goes for 5, 8, 9, and then he bounces back in a big way with 33 points. So in his last 5 games, you can see he's went over 2 times and under 3 times. Now again, if Kawhi Leonard is out, this guy will get plenty of shots. You can see 13 shots in that game he went well over, and then 18 shots in that game where he went well over. So I'm liking the way things are shaping up here from Morris. Now we're going to look at RotoWire once again, and Marcus Morris's name comes up here, and you can see at 14.5 points on DraftKings Sportsbook, people are smashing the over. Minus 143, loving the way that's looking. FanDuel, they've got him at 14.5 as well, and on 14.5, people are hitting the over there as well. BetMGM at 14.5, a little bit of a deviation from the other 2 sites. People are taking the under on the 14.5 point prop for Marcus Morris. And then finally, our last reference sportsbook is PointsBet, and they've got him at 14.5. And you can see at 14.5, people are smashing the over there as well. So I think I'm going to disagree with BetMGM. I think I'm going to side with the other 3 sportsbooks and NumberFire, who has him projected going over 15 points. And I think I'm going to try and go for the over on Marcus Morris as well. So I like the way that one's shaping up here. Now, with those couple of point plays in the book, we're going to move ahead here and talk assists. I've only got one guy to discuss for assists, but we're going to make up for that with a lot of rebound picks. So we'll talk assists real quick here. Chris Paul is the guy that I want to mention. Last night, I think we had him favorited as an under on 9.5 assists. Well, he ended up going for, I think, 10 assists. So he actually did go over his 9.5 assist prop. Well, they've got him down at 8.5 assists tonight. So at 8.5 assists, I think that the under is the way that I want to go. Again, I want to go back to the under and see if it treats me a little better than it did last night. So let's start things off by looking at the game totals and the spread for this one. Phoenix is taking on the Miami Heat, so pretty nice little matchup here on paper. Let's take a look at the totals. Looks like 217.5 points, so actually pretty low total game here, but the spread is good. So Phoenix, just a 3-point favorite at home. This game doesn't look like it's going to blow out. Should stay close and competitive. We'll just have to see, with the total being so low, if Chris Paul actually goes over this 8.5 assist number. Normally with lower totals, everything else tends to be lower too. Points, rebounds, assists, even 3-point makes tend to drop with lower total games like this one at 217.5. So with that in mind, we can go ahead and highlight the assist column. Let's do another little search here to find Chris Paul more quickly. And you could see that he is at 8.4 assists, so just 0.1 under the 8.5 assist prop here on PrizePicks. So that means between a spectrum of 8 and 9 assists that he should be leaning more toward the 8 assist number tonight, and that's exactly what we're hoping for. So without further ado, we'll go back to NBA.com. We'll type in Chris Paul's name. And you can see for the season, his season average of assists is 8.7 assists per game, putting him slightly over tonight's prop of 8.5. So for the season, more often than not, he's leaning more toward 9 assists than he is 8 assists. So that's a little troublesome, a little concerning if we're looking to take the under. Provides us with a little more context though. Now we go down here and we look at his last 5 games, scroll over just a little bit. You could see that in his last 5, he goes over, under, over. So he has went over 8.5 assists in 4 of his last 5 games. Again, more cause for concern here in this matchup. For us who are looking to take the under on 8.5 assists, it becomes a lot more murky, a lot more cloudy when you look at how he's been dishing the rock in his last 5 games. So I'm not feeling so good about the under on Chris Paul so far. Gotta be honest, I might flip-flop on you guys. Now let's type in his name here. and see if we've got an assist prop. We do. And on DraftKings Sportsbook at 8.5 assists, people are taking the under. Surprise, surprise. So they're going against the grain. They're going against his last 5 game logs where he's been going over 8.5 assists with pretty great regularity here. FanDuel, same situation. 8.5 assists, they're taking the under. BetMGM, 8.5 assists, they're taking the under. And finally, PointsBet, 8.5 assists, people are going under. So all the sports books out there, people are taking the under on Chris Paul at 8.5 assists. The game logs do worry me a little bit. He has been going over 8.5 assists in 4 of his last 5 games. So that's a little concerning. And then on top of that, the other thing that plays in our favor if we're looking to take the under is that the game totals are just 217.5 points. But working against us is the fact that the spread is going to be competitive, meaning Chris Paul will probably play big minutes in this one. I'm just not liking the situation. If I'm leaning one way or the other, guys, I'm probably going against Vegas here and probably taking the over on Chris Paul. But it's all too unclear for me. So most likely my final word of advice on this would be to fade it and look for a better play elsewhere. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to skip this one and tell you not to play Chris Paul tonight. Matter of fact, I'm crossing him off my list right now. All right, so with the assists in the book, we can move to rebounds. And I got quite a few rebound plays that I want to talk about that really stood out to me. So the first one's going to be PG. We're going back to Paul George. So let's head back to Number Fire, and then we can go to the rebound column. We can kind of sort that and highlight it. And now we can do a little search here for Paul George and his name. And you can see that he is projected on PrizePicks for 6.5 boards. They got him at 7.3 rebounds over on Number Fire. So you can already see the way that I'm looking to go, and that's going to be the over on Paul George here. So with that in mind, let's move over here and do a search for Paul George on NBA.com and just look at his rebounds, see how he's been rebounding for the season, and then we'll look at his last 5 games since the NBA site's acting a little wonky. And then we'll go from there and look at the different sports books and see how things have looked for Paul George. All right, so for the season, he's rebounding the ball at 6.2 boards per game, which is less than his prop at 6.5 rebounds in tonight's slate. But if we scroll down here, we can get a better idea of how he's been rebounding the ball recently. And you can see he's got an over, under. So he's got 3 overs and 2 unders in his last 5 games. So hasn't been very consistent. It's been a little bit up and down for Paul George, but with the game totals being what they are and the spread being what it is, competitive spread, high game totals, you should see his rebounds go up. And especially without Kawhi Leonard there, somebody's going to have to step up and snag some more rebounds. Hopefully it's Paul George. Now, with that in mind, we can head on over to RotoWire. We click this little button. You can't see it on my screen, but down at the bottom here, there's this little bar that has all the different single stat player props, and you can just click the category that you're interested in. So I clicked rebounds, and it brought me right to where I want to be. So that's a very handy little thing to have. And we type in his name, and you can see that at 6.5 boards on DraftKings Sportsbook, people are hammering the over. They like him to get 7 or more rebounds. FanDuel, same situation, hammering the over at 6.5. BetMGM at 6.5, they're taking the over there as well. And finally, PointsBet, 6.5 boards, a big favorite to go over. So Paul George, I'm probably leaning toward the over here. I know that his game logs have been a little bit spotty, but you got to consider the game totals. You got to consider the spread and the matchup and the fact that Kawhi Leonard's not in there. And I'd probably be leaning toward the over on Paul George if it were me. So with Paul George in the books, we can talk the next guy, and it's going to be the Utah Jazz superstar swingman Donovan Spida Mitchell. Now, Utah is taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder at 9:10 p.m. over on PrizePicks. So they got Donovan Mitchell at 4.5 rebounds. Now, at 4.5 rebounds, I don't think that is quite enough. I think he's going to get more than that, but we're going to do the research right here, right now, and figure out if it's enough, or maybe he goes under. Who knows? Now, his projection is 4.6 boards, which is slightly more than 4.5, right? So that means that between 4 and 5, that little window there, that he should be leaning more toward or trending more toward 5 rebounds than he is 4 rebounds. So I'm liking the way things are shaping up so far. So we can head back to NBA.com. It's kind of a rinse and repeat process. And this is what I do all day long for my Patreon members out there. When I put together these single stat spreadsheets, I'm doing exactly what you're seeing here. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. I go through every single play that looks like a good one, and I save you guys a bunch of time. I take on the burden of doing that. It's part of what we do with the Patreon membership. So you can see his player card pops right up here, and then at 4.5 rebounds, he's actually right at 4.5 rebounds for the season. So of course, there's no such thing as a half a rebound. It's either 4 or 5, but he's right in the middle. It's kind of a coin flip whether or not game to game he's going to hit 4 rebounds or 5 rebounds. So let's see if his last 5 games tell a little bit of a different tale. Now, you can see in his rebound category here, you got offensive, defensive, and then you got total rebounds. He's got an over, under, under. So 3 overs, 2 unders. So the over has been the way to go in this particular situation. Now, one thing that we should have considered here, and I'll go back and look at it now, is the game totals and the spread in this one. Now, Utah, a massive favorite here at home. A 17-point spread. The total is just 222.5 points. So this one has red light, blowout risk, warning potential, whatever you want to call it. It's a big favorite here to blow out. I mean, minus 17. I don't know the last time I've seen a spread that big. That's crazy. So that's definitely something noteworthy to keep in mind, especially when you're looking to target overs that, hey, Donovan Mitchell may not be in there in the fourth quarter if this game gets carried away as quickly as I think it might. So just be careful there. So the last thing we're going to look at is Mitchell and his props on the various sports books. DraftKings doesn't have a rebound prop up for Donovan Mitchell, but the other 3 do. And at 4.5 FanDuel, they are smashing the over on minus 140. Now, over on BetMGM at 4.5, he is a minus 133. So another big favorite to go over. And finally, PointsBet, 4.5 rebounds. They got him at minus 140 as well. So these are very high favorable odds here for the over 4.5 rebounds. But I do say proceed with caution due to the blowout risk. All right, fair warning. The next guy we're going to talk about is Damian Lillard, the point guard for the Portland Trail Blazers, is projected for 3.5 boards tonight. He's taking on the Boston Celtics. This game tips off at 10:10 p.m. So let's take a look here at Damian Lillard and see how things are shaping up for his rebound prop. Well, the first thing we got to look at is the game totals, and you can see that this one is projected for 229.5 points. So loving the totals. That's a very good total. And then the Portland Trail Blazers are a 1-point favorite at home. So with just a 1-point spread, this is a green light go for me. I'm playing everybody that I can and not feeling any type of way as far as like a blowout or any type of concern. So I'm liking the way things are shaping up here. So let's do a little search for Damian Lillard. And you can see that his rebounds are projected at 4.1 rebounds tonight, which would be A-okay, would be just fine because we need him to take down at least 4 rebounds. So 4.1 got me feeling pretty good here on this 3.5 rebound prop. So let's do a little search for his name here. And we'll see what comes up for Damian Lillard. So for the season, his rebounds are 4.2 per game. So that puts him quite a bit higher than his 3.5. So I'm liking the over. Still sticking with the over so far. Let's see if, no, still not working. Okay. All right. They're just going to be like that today. That's just fine. So we'll go down here and we'll look at his last 5 games. And you can see he went under, over, under. So in his last 5, he's went under 3 times and just 2 overs. So the under has been the way to go for Damian Lillard in most of his recent games here. But last but not least, we're heading back to RotoWire. And we're going to do a little search action here for Damian Lillard. You can see that DraftKings has him at 3.5. Not really seeing any type of juice over or under there. But on FanDuel, you can see that people are taking the over more than the under in that situation. And then finally, BetMGM at 3.5 boards. It looks like the under is the way that they're going there. So it's very murky, very cloudy here for Damian Lillard. If it was up to me, I'd probably lean toward a fade. Yeah, I wouldn't touch this one. I'm not seeing a clear enough picture of what might happen with Damian Lillard, but if you have some cojones, if you want to roll the dice here, I'd probably say take the over. But for me, it's probably going to be a fade, and I'm not going to touch that one. So I'm crossing Damian Lillard and this rebound prop off of my list. He's going to be a do not play, a DNP for me tonight. So the next one that we're going to talk about from the same game actually is Jaylen Brown, the Boston Celtics swingman. He is projected at 5.5 boards, and at 5.5 boards, I think I'm targeting the over on Jaylen Brown. So let's take a look here. It's very rinse and repeat. As I mentioned before, we don't want Moses Brown. We want Jaylen Brown. There he is. So at 5.5 boards, he's projected for 5.7. So between 5 and 6, he should be more likely to get 6 rebounds than he is to just settle for 5 rebounds. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the over 5.5 boards, which would be 6 rebounds. So keeping that in mind, let's move over and look at some of his stats for the season and his last 5 games. And you could see in this player card here that 5.8 rebounds, again, lending itself to being closer to 6 rebounds, lending itself to being more in line with his projections tonight than it is with his PrizePicks figure of 5.5 boards. So let's scroll down and look at his recent 5 games and see how he's been rebounding the basketball. Man, this dude's been crushing it. So 6 boards puts him over, and he goes under here, comes back with 10 rebounds. 5 rebounds would put him under, and 8 rebounds would put him over. So he's got 3 overs and just 2 unders. So the overs have been the way to go more often than not in his last 5 games. So with that in mind, we will look at the sports books, see how the juice is flowing on Jaylen Brown and this 5.5 rebound prop. You can see on DraftKings, he's a slight over. So far, so good. FanDuel, again, slight over. BetMGM, a bigger over. And then finally, PointsBet, they've got him at 5.5 boards, and he's a minus 120 there as well. So most of the juice is flowing to the over. And I like the way things are shaping up here for going over on Jaylen Brown, with the game totals being what they are, the spread being competitive, and all the projections and the Vegas lines are all leaning in the same direction, and that's over for Jaylen Brown and 5.5 boards. So I'm taking it. Now, Devin Booker is the last rebound guy that I want to take a look at. Now, Book is at 4.5 boards. He is going to be the only under on the rebound section of today's video that I'm looking to take. He's at 4.5 boards, taking on the Miami Heat, as we mentioned before. Just a quick little refresher on this game. The totals on this one, very low, just 217.5 points, but the spread is 3. So it's a competitive spread. All the stars in this game should be playing a full complement of minutes in this one. So I'm looking to take the under on Devin Booker at 4.5 boards. Let's do a search and find him here on NumberFire. And you can see NumberFire's got him projected for 4.1 rebounds. So we need him to be at 4 rebounds tonight. If he goes for 5 and we take the under, we are toast. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to be toast, especially burnt toast. No sirree. So with that in mind, let's move over to NBA.com. We'll type in his name. Up comes Book. And you can see for the season, 4.2 rebounds per game. So between 4 and 5 boards, he's leaning more toward the 4 side than he is the 5 side. So that is looking good and favorable for us who are looking to take the under on him. Now, this is a little concerning. In his last 5 games, over, under, over. He's got 3 overs. He's got 2 unders in his last 5 games. So he has been rebounding the ball a little bit better than 4.5 rebounds per game. So little concerning there. That's the first little knock against Devin Booker in the under on his rebound prop today. But let's type it in to the various sports books and take a look. Now on DraftKings, it is a tie. It is split here. Not really seeing a under or an overplay as the way to go here. Now on FanDuel, he is a slight under at -112. BetMGM, he is a bigger under there at -120. And then finally, PointsBet, the biggest under out of all four sports books at a -125. So I think I'm sticking with my guns. I'm probably going to take Devin Booker under. I'll leave him on my list, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So that's going to do it for all of our rebound player props. We're going to move over to three-pointers made. Now, I've had a ton of success with these three-pointer made props. So let's see if we can keep it rolling. The first guy we're going to talk about is Phoenix Suns swingman Jay Crowder. I think Jay Crowder went absolutely ballistic from the three-point line last night. I might have read that wrong, but I think somebody in the Discord said that he hit like, I don't know, 8 threes or something like that. I could be wrong. Well, he's facing his former team, the Miami Heat, tonight. He's at 2.5 three-pointers made. So we don't have a projection here on number fire for 3 points. So we're just going to have to do it the down and dirty way, and we're going to just look at his game logs and see how he's been shooting the basketball lately. So the first thing we'll do is we'll try to click his stats. All right, it actually loaded that time. That's cool. So for the season, he attempts 6.3 three-pointers per game. Now on those 6.3 attempts, he is making 2.5, which would put him right on the dot as far as where he is projected today, meaning it's a coin flip. He could go for 2 or he could go for 3. It's a toss-up. So we go from there and we click his total splits. I'm glad this is finally working. Click advanced filters, and then under the date range category here, you can change season segment from all games to just his last 5 games. And that'll give you a better idea of how well he's been shooting. And then we go down here and we look, his attempts, 6 threes per game. He's making 2.8 in his last 5 games. So not looking good if we're trying to target the under on Jay Crowder and these 3-point makes. Now, can he keep the hot hand going? I mean, he's shooting 46% from 3. I'm probably rolling the dice and saying that he cannot keep or sustain a 46, almost 47% 3-point conversion rate. I think that's just too high for a guy like Jay Crowder. Now, we're going to do a search for him over on the RotoWire site, and you can see that at 2.5 threes, he's a big betting favorite to go under 2.5 on DraftKings. Now on FanDuel, a little bit of a deviation here. People are actually taking the over on 2.5 3-point makes. And then BetMGM, no prop up there for him. And then finally, PointsBet, they're smashing the under on 2.5 3-point makes. So they think that he's going to make just 2 3-pointers, that he will not make 3 3-pointers. So 2 out of the 3 sports books agree that the under on Jay Crowder at 2.5 3-pointers made is the way to go. So if I'm leaning one way or the under, it's going to be under on, did I say leaning one way or the under? I meant to say leaning one way or the other. I would be leaning toward the under for Jay Crowder in this situation. All right, so that brings us to our last name that we'll be discussing in today's video. That is Indiana Pacers guard Caris LeVert. Now, he is at a 1.5 3-pointers made. So that means that he could go for 1 or he could go for 2. In this situation, I think he goes for at least 2 3-point makes in this one. Now, we've already talked about the totals being pretty high in this game, the spread being pretty competitive in this one. So I think there will be more 3-point attempts hoisted up, and I think there's a good chance that Caris LeVert can convert on at least 2 of those. So let's do a little search for him. There he is. Go to his stats. And then you can see for the season, he is attempting 5.3 3-pointers per game, and he's making 1.7 3-pointers. So that means between 1 and 2 threes, he's more often than not over on the 2 3-pointers made side of things. So that's looking good for us so far. So let's click traditional splits, click advanced filters, change the season segment from all games down to 5. I'm showing you guys how to do all this. You can do all this on your own for free. It doesn't cost you a dime. All it costs you is your time. And yes, that was a rhyme. Bars. So you can see in his last 5 games, he's played in all 5 of them. His 3-point attempts are up to 4.2 attempts, and his makes are just 1.2. So he's shooting the 3-point ball for the last 5 games at 28%. Not very good. Not looking very good for Caris LeVert. I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm a little shooketh by that revelation. So let's type in his name here, and you can see that at 1.5 3-point makes, DraftKings Sportsbook, people are smashing the over. They like him to go over 1.5, meaning he's going to land on 2 threes made, or maybe even more. Maybe he gets hot. Who knows? And FanDuel, they got him at 1.5 as well. An even bigger favorite there to go over 1.5 3-point makes. And then finally, PointsBet at 1.5. They've got him going over there as well at -140. So there you have it, guys. Those are some of my first look, my initial single stat player prop picks that I like for PrizePicks, or if you play on any of the sports books. Hopefully this information has helped you out. If you found value in today's video, hit the like button for me. I'm going to put the bar at, let's say, 20 likes, because we weren't able to hit anywhere close to yesterday's projection for likes on the video. So I'm going to set it at 20 likes today. I'm taking the over on 20 likes. There's over 820 of you subscribed to the channel. I know at least a couple of hundred of you watched this video. So let's try and go for at least about 10% of your views as likes. Can we convert 10% of the views as likes? My goal is over 20 likes. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name's CJ. This has been Out of Bounds. Good luck tonight if you're playing on PrizePicks or on any of the sportsbook websites. Let's go make some money. Till the next video, guys. Peace.